You will find some of the strangest recipes when you're flipping through an 18th century cookbook. You'll find recipes for soused hog's face, or sea turtle soup, or today's recipe, Salamagundy. This is a recipe that starts showing up in the 17th century cookbooks. It gets popular in the 18th century and disappears in the 19th century, and you very rarely see it after that. Now, it's very difficult sometimes to research this particular dish because it's spelled so many different ways and different combinations. But the word itself is based off of a French word that's very similar to this, and it means a combination or a great mixture of different items. It turns out that a salmagundy is a kind of salad. Now, when I think historical food, salads do not come to mind, but salads are something that have been popular for hundreds of years, and they had lots of different kinds of salads. We tend to think of salads as a green salad, or sometimes we have special dishes like potato salad or ham salad or egg salad. Their salads could be a lot of different things. Sometimes they had simple boiled salads, which would almost turn out to be like a puree. They would boil something like spinach and then cream it, and they would call that a salad. I don't think I would call that a salad, but they certainly did in the time period. In the 17th century, they started to have something common, especially in high-income households, which would be a grand salad, something that you might see at a banquet or when you had a special guest. And a salmagundy is a kind of grand salad. It would have a base sometimes of greens, didn't always have to have greens, but it usually had meat products, it would have pickled products, it would have all sorts of different ingredients, especially like egg yolks and egg whites that were boiled, and they would make this into a huge and very colorful dish. It was very important for it to have all these different colors and that it would be put together in a very, very spectacular kind of way. Now, sometimes you'll see a salmagundy where they put the individual items in bowls kind of like this. So you might see someone's table and they would call this, what we see right here, a salmagundy. But usually they would put this all together on a very large platter, and this would go into the center of the table. And you would basically serve yourself out of this salmagundy whatever parts that you liked. You would make your own salad out of the components of the salmagundy, and you would also put salad oil on top of that. And that is a salmagundy. Now, some people get maybe mixed up, and you might have heard of pirates liking salamagundy. Well, that's probably a different dish altogether, based out of the Caribbean, where they would make like a smoked herring or mackerel pate with peppers, and it would be a special mixture. I think that's probably what the pirates were interested in, not a grand salad like we're going to be making today. Here's a recipe from 1793 to give us an idea about how different some of these recipes are. This one is from the Housekeeper's Pocketbook, and it's titled A Cold Hash or a Salmagundy. So they have lots of different names for it. Mince the white of a cold turkey that has been roasted with 8 anchovies, 8 pickled oysters, 6 pickled cucumbers, minced all small. Lay it all on a dish handsomely. Lay around all sorts of pickles and mushrooms, cloves, capers, samphire, and set it by oil and vinegar. This is proper to a cold treat. Notice this one doesn't have much for greens in it at all, and one of the common things we'll see here is that they hash the items up very, very small. The main recipe we'll be working from is from Hannah Glass. She's right there in the middle of the 18th century, and she has 3 different recipes for salmagundy. This is the 3rd recipe. Mince veal or a fowl very small. A pickled herring boned and picked small. Cucumber minced small. Apples minced small. An onion peeled and minced small. Some pickled red cabbage chopped small. Cold pork minced small. Or a cold duck or pigeons minced small. Boiled parsley chopped fine. Celery cut small. Yolks of hard eggs chopped small, the whites chopped small. Either lay all the ingredients by themselves separate on saucers or in heaps in a dish. Lay them out with what pickles you have and sliced lemon nicely cut. If you get nasturtium flowers, lay them around. Makes a fine middle dish for supper, but you may always make salmagundy of such things as you have. Now we're gonna definitely go with the spirit of this recipe, especially that last part where she says, make it of such things as you have as you fancy. So we've got some greens for our salad. We've got, of course, the classic boiled eggs, which we'll do the whites and the yolks. It always has a meat component as far as I can tell, and a multiple meat component to that. So we've got some roasted chicken. We also have some fish in a couple of different types here, along with the anchovy, and I've got some ham to put with this. We also have various pickled ingredients because pickling was one of the most popular preservation techniques they had in the time period, and this particular recipe really points out putting as many different pickled items as you can. So we've got some pickled carrots, we've got regular small pickled cucumbers, we've got some pickled red cabbage, which many of the recipes call for. I also have some pickled peppers and pickled beets, which were mentioned in some of the recipes. So we've got all these components. The real question here is, how do we put them together so they look nice? It's important that this particular dish looks good, and the ingredients are chosen for their colors and textures, as well as for their tastes. Many of the recipes call for building this dish up into a sort of a spectacular shape, something that looks good and will be nice looking in the center of your table. And so we're gonna pick a very large round dish to start to build this up. Now, here is a description from one of the recipes. Now, usually recipes don't talk about how something looks when you serve it, but this particular recipe and many of the Salamagundy recipes do that. This is from Rundell's cookbook in 1814, and halfway through it says, a saucer, a large teacup or any other base may be put into a small dish and then make rows around it, wide at the bottom, growing smaller towards the top, choosing such ingredients as each row as will most vary the colors. And then at this particular one, it says at the very top, put a little sprig of curled parsley. What the direction here and other recipes also talk about the same thing is where you take a large platter and you'll put a bowl upside down into the middle of that platter to give it a base. And so that as you build the salmagundy up, it creates a heaping shape so that it looks like it's giant and full. We can see this is so colorful and so full of flavor, all the different components that we have put together in this. It's interesting that probably the blandest color and the blandest flavor here is the chicken, or a lot of the recipes call for turkey. Now, but they put it with all these, things like pickles that have very intense flavors. So what happens when we combine all those together and we put a salad dressing on it? That's what we're gonna find out. If you look in the cookbooks, salad dressing, always the same. It's just as simple, olive oil and vinegar mixed together, and that's all we're gonna put on our salad. In any particular recipe, usually I've got an idea of exactly what we're gonna get for flavors. There's so much variation within this. We have meat, we have sweetness, we have the pickles, we have the greens. Who knows? In each and every bite, you're gonna get a different salad, and that's what's probably so fun. A little bit of pickle, a little bit of meat flavor, a little bit of sweetness. This has got everything in it. Such a wonderful dish. This is a famous historical dish that any of us can try out. We don't even really need to do any cooking. Just go and buy the individual components as long as they're colorful and flavorful, and it makes a wonderful summertime dish.